Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of Inside 60 Days, the after show discussion that goes behind the scenes of the A&E TV show set in the Clark County Jail. That show, called 60 Days In, follows 7 people who volunteered to go undercover as inmates in the jail for 2 months. In last night's episode, a shakedown of one of the pods turned up something that surprised even the sheriff. Over in the women's pod, the inmates were worried about mold and rashes and how to get along with each other. To talk about that latest episode, I'm joined by Jennifer Ortiz, a criminal justice professor at IUS, and Clark County Jail Commander Major Sam Beard. My name is Elizabeth DePompe, and I'm the public safety reporter for the News and Tribune. Welcome, and thank you both for being here as always. Major Beard, I want to jump right in and have you tell us a bit about this emergency response team that we saw in last night's episode. Tell me about the team and how often you all do those kind of raids, if that's what you would call them.
It's called the Correctional Emergency Response Team, and early in my career when I was first hired over the Kentucky DOC, they were going to build a new prison. And what they always did is they got this emergency response team together before they even opened the door to the prison. It's always been a philosophy of mine. You have to get well-trained individuals to respond to chaos because you don't have the best people in the world locked up together. So it's not if you'll need them, it's when you'll need them. The Corrections Emergency Response Team, in our studio we have Sergeant Damon McCovey. He's wearing the black, and Co-Commander Scott Woods. They went to Nationally Certified CERT Instructor School. We're trained for a lot of stuff, whether it be cell extractions, dorm takeovers like in Pod 3, shakedowns, and just those type of maneuvers where last night's episode, you've seen 2 dynamic entries happen simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. And so how often would you say that they do those kind of, you all receive a tip that there's drugs or something illegal in the pod and you have to go do one of those?
Yes, and the drugs are a big thing, and that's what we do. But also, I have never seen a weapon in a jail like that was found last night. And that's what we sort of knew that could be the case. That's why we went in so hard and fast. Mm-hmm. Not giving anybody any time to ditch anything or react.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer, I want to ask you a bit, how do you think that element of surprise that Major Beard just referred to, and just the shakedown in general, how that kind of shakes up the inmates and how it affects them?
Well, I think one is you have to make them random, and you have to make them unannounced so that they don't have a chance to actually flush anything or move anything. I think it shakes them up because they get comfortable, and some of them do have contraband, and they feel as though they are not going to be caught. And then a random, shakedown really surprises them.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Elizabeth, after those 2 maneuvers, is there any doubt who's in charge of the jail?
Well, yeah, and that's, again, what I was, kind of asking is how it affects the inmates. It seems to show them, oh, well, you're not in control.
Yes.
Here. Okay. We had somebody asked me on Twitter about what the CERT officers were actually carrying. Major Beard, if you can tell us a little bit about that gear and what kind of defense they have.
Well, of course, we have vests and we have pepper ball guns, which it's a lower impact weapon, and the thing is to deliver as much OC as we can to debilitate somebody. We have a FN 303. It's a higher impact weapon, and also we have a 37 millimeter that shoots all kinds of less than lethal projectiles.
Mm-hmm. Some of the inmates were taken out. I was surprised that the inmates that were taken out and not arrested, they weren't handcuffed. They were just taken out with their hands kind of above their head. But so they're taken out and then they're all patted down. Isaiah feels like they spent a little more time on him, patting him down. Why do you think he felt that way, Major Beard? Can you speak to maybe why that pat down would have taken longer?
Isaiah is not used to being searched. A lot of the inmates are used to being searched. And the corrections officer searching him might have felt something funny. Or if you're searching somebody, having them put their hands on the wall and they start moving, or, you got to make sure that this inmate's contained. It can affect a whole bunch of other inmates in that area.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer, what did you
I also think that if you look at him compared to Zach was lying in his bunk, so he didn't have that orange jumpsuit on, so there's less material for that correctional officer to search. I also think that it may be that because Isaiah is from Philadelphia, he's used to experiencing stop and frisk, and he's used to that antagonistic relationship with the law enforcement, and maybe he's recalling some of that while that search is happening. But he also does tend to move. If you notice, all the inmates, including Zach, keep their hands on the wall, and they're very stiff. And Isaiah does tend to shift around while they're searching him, and maybe the officer was suspicious or did think that he was concealing something. But again, it could just be that what he experiences on the street is maybe, causing him to feel a certain way while this officer is searching him.
Another thing that I saw on Twitter is after they searched the bunks, there was a question of why is it up to the inmates to clean up their bunks and to put everything back together? If you can speak to that.
Well, when we teach cell searches, we try to leave a bunk or a cell as good as we can, but with a maneuver that we didn't go in to search one cell or two cells. We went in to search every cell in two sections, and that maneuver from start to finish was about 2 hours. Now, if we went back and made every bed and put how long would that took? And Zach's concern was the pictures on the wall of his family. Did you see after they took them pictures down what was left on that wall? That is a definite no-no in my eyes, because that's county property, and you're attaching a picture with toothpaste.
Oh, is that what that was? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's switch to the women's pod. We start off with seeing Miriam and some of the inmates. They notice there's mold in the bathroom. Later, we see one of the inmates is itching, and they don't know what's going on with her. There's a rash spreading. Again, another question that was on Twitter, and question that I had is, that inmate doesn't seem to get any kind of medical attention, and we hear that there's no nurse on the weekends. Is that true? Can you speak to that?
During that filming, we had 2 nurses taking care of 500 inmates. They're on call 24/7. So you figure it out. By federal standards and state standards, there's 3 things we must treat: severe, life-threatening illness or injury, disfigurement, or severe pain. By law, that's what we're there to treat. It all goes back to we're living in a society when it's everybody else's fault. That female inmate ordered commissary that week, and on the commissary we have these cortisone creams. If you notice, one of the females had cortisone cream she offered her. I've got poison ivy doing yard work before. Do I go to the store and get nutty bars? No, I get something to help do I go to the doctor? No. On the other side of that, one time, I had an inmate with an allergic reaction to fish. He was allergic to seafood. He bought a Cajun shrimp soup off a commissary, ate it, and he looked like the Michelin Man. His hair was cut off. That's a life-threatening situation. I mean, would you go to the hospital if you had a rash?
Right.
Would you?
Jennifer, what did you make of that situation of Miriam? I think she refers to the pod as a cesspool of dirt and germs.
Well, I think that speaks to a bigger problem in corrections. When you put a bunch of people in a confined space, things will spread. I mean, it's the reason why in prisons the rate of HIV is, I think, 10 times higher than in the general public. Hepatitis C is just full-blown inside of facilities. Any real airborne or really any disease, we have higher rates of it inside of prisons. But we also have to understand we can't just extract all of those inmates and then do a deep cleaning of that pod. So you're really dependent on the inmates to clean the space for themselves. Mold is definitely a problem, but is that the result of something? That is likely the result of that space not being clean for an extended period of time, but they're the ones who live there, so it would really fall on them to clean it, because we can't just take them out. You can't send in a cleaning crew. Right. And to speak to the issue about that inmate not getting the treatment many people think that she probably should have, I think that speaks to an issue of underfunding jails, which doesn't allow jails to be properly staffed, right? You don't have enough correction officers, you definitely don't have enough, medical staff.
Major Beard, did you want to say something?
Roby didn't have much trouble keeping 3C clean, did he? You've seen them with mops. You've seen them. 3F gets the same thing. You ever see Miriam swing a mop?
So if they don't clean for extended period of time, does correction staff, does anyone try to?
We do. In fact, we had a jail inspection this past week I was talking to you about prior to us going on air. And Sergeant McCubbins, who's sitting over here, we got a couple Kaivac machines. He extracts everybody and is clean with a Kaivac. You know, so once every 6 weeks, we'll do stuff like that.
Right. Let's move on to Tammy. She seems to do kind of a 180 in terms of her attitude in this episode, and she wants to make amends and apologize to some of the inmates that she's confronted or rubbed the wrong way. Do you think she's doing the right thing and has the right attitude now?
Tammy thinks rationally. You know, she understands that going the way she wasn't going to make it. So I think it was a pretty good deal, and I think she did the right thing.
Yeah, this was the behavior I kind of expected from her from the beginning. Was this more cool-headed, calm person, you know, the rational adult inside this pod. So I think she is doing a good job. I cringed a little bit when I saw Boston say, "Oh, I love Tammy," and I just thought, like, this is so, like, she's acting so fake. You can't just go from hating someone to, "Oh, I love you so much." So I cringed seeing that, but I do think Tammy, for the sake of her completing, you know, the program, is going about things the right way, trying to make amends with all these people.
Something that always interests me, and we've talked about this a bit before, but would her tactics in terms of apologizing and trying to make amends, would that fly in the men's pod, or it's a totally different code?
Like Miss Ortiz says, you got to watch people like Boston, Tommy Roby, people like that, and you always got to keep your eye on them. You know, inmates know that. In the male section, we have people apologize all the time, but you gotta know in that kind of atmosphere, you always got to keep your eye on that person.
Sure. All right, I wanted to ask about Robert. He is still in segregation. We're really dragging out his story here. He's told that he will be put back into the general population. Next thing we know, he is buckled over in pain. Do you think it's sincere? Do you think he is trying to find a way out?
I think it's like I was telling you all before this started. We should really give him like some kind of acting award, because I think what he's doing is he tried to present himself as tough. Jail is really easy. I can survive this. I think he quickly realized that he couldn't. That's why he did what he did, because he knew he would end up in seg. And now that he's going back, I think he is just scared, and he's using the sickness as an excuse not to have to go back into a Gen Pop.
Yeah. Why not just, they have a safety phrase, they can put the towel on their neck and be taken out. Why doesn't he just do that, you think?
He don't want to get off camera. He wants to stay current.
I also think that then he has to admit that jail is not a country club.
Right. So Jeff was the first person who left early, and he came back in this episode for an exit interview with Sheriff Knoll and Scotty Maples. But Jennifer, you also did exit interviews with the participants, correct?
Yes, I didn't speak to Jeff.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't.
Okay, do you know why, or?
Well, I dealt with a lot of people who had, I dealt with the people who had finished the program, and people, a large part of it was the people in season 2 who you guys haven't had a chance to meet yet, because we filmed season 2 before A&E even announced season 1. So I didn't get to speak to Jeff.
Major Beard, do you think Jeff had any valuable feedback? Is there anything you can take away?
How not to act when you get incarcerated, you know, giving away stuff, and what you got to realize, and I'm not calling anybody in jail, but if you go in there, like I start tomorrow as a corrections officer, and the inmates can sense fear from you, your career's over. And I think that's what they did with Jeff. They sensed the fear.
Yeah. Was there anything else out of last night's episode that surprised you all, or you want to see more of, or learn more about?
What surprised me is the type of weapon they found in light. You know, I know what kind of damage a weapon can, firsthand, I know what kind of damage a weapon like that can do, and it's not nice.
I do think one thing that I wanted to mention was we see Barbara on the phone with her husband, and she talks about how the phone calls are 25 cents a minute. And I think we need to speak about that as a broader issue. There is price gouging on phone calls out of correctional facilities. And that has a really negative effect on the offender's ability to maintain a relationship with their family members. I mean, and 25 cents is cheap in comparison to some other facilities. Their facilities are charging $27 for a 15-minute phone call. Mm-hmm. And people can't afford $27 every day or even once a week to speak to their family members. And there was actually the FCC last October set regulations to set the maximum cost at 11 cents a minute, with the idea of allowing people to actually maintain relationships. Because if you don't have a relationship with your family, you will reoffend when you come home. You have to maintain that relationship. So I think seeing that dynamic at play, because here is a relatively middle-class woman whose family can't afford to continue these phone calls. Imagine all the individuals who are indigent and can't afford to maintain that relationship. So I would like to see them discuss or see how it plays out, because my main focus is going to be recidivism and reentry. Can these people come out and be law-abiding citizens, or have they experienced or have they been so detached from society and their family that they're more damaged when they come home?
Major Beard, looking ahead, is there anything that you're looking forward to for next week?
I'm looking at when you take the 5 people out, one of them being Roby, how the dynamics of the pod changes.
Yeah, because he was the
right.
pod boss.
Who's gonna take his spot?
Right. Very good. Well, that's it for this episode of Inside 60 Days. The next episode of 60 Days In airs Thursday at 10 p.m. on A&E. For more of our 60 Days In coverage, please visit newsandtribune.com/inside60days. To ask our panelists your own questions, tweet at News and Tribune with the hashtag Inside60Days. And if you've had your own experience in the Clark County Jail, please email me at elizabeth.depompe@newsandtribune.com. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you to the Jeffersonville High School students who help us every week. And thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.